Hey everybody, welcome back to Drip Drop Studio. I'm Mikey, and I'm here again with the brass, Motu and Troy, legends,
You're
big
the
dogs.
brass.
And yeah, we're gonna get started. So
El Jefe.
welcome you guys back to the studio.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're gonna talk about Drip Drop Smoke Shop, aka Smoke Shop in a Shop. Which is an idea that's been spawned and developed and worked on here for the last how long? It's been a while.
Yeah,
16 months at least.
Yeah,
over a year.
It's been a lot of brainstorming, a lot of people working on it. So I really just want to get down to what it is exactly and how the idea came about. You want to start us off, Motu?
Yeah, the concept of Smoke Shop in a Shop, right, is with us trying to build the bridge, right, from counterculture into mainstream, right. There's so many pieces that come to that, right? And right now we're kind of in the middle of watching as a lot of the mainstream stores are trying to get into counterculture products.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's Kratom, whether it's D8, right? A lot of these C stores are starting to understand that all the money that they can make is on that side of the fence.
Yeah.
And so since we deal in that side of the fence and we deal with smoke shops, tobacco stores, vape stores, right, we have seen a majority of vape shops begin the conversion into trying to become smoke shops. A lot of head shops, right, are getting closer to trying to service dispensary consumers. And so C stores are starting to try to bridge the gap. And so the thought came about, right, whether it I think it was a multitude of people that kind of brought the idea, but really it was, how do we build the bridge for mainstream convenience, mainstream grocery stores, for them to be able to have the products that are in smoke shops, head shop, tobacco shops, and be able to service the same customer that's coming in and buying their energy drinks, their chips, their candies, their cigarettes, and then they're ended up going down the street to buy their Kratom, their glass, their cones, whatever that is. How do we merge all that into one place, right?
Sure, yeah.
And right now, right, statistically, there's 100 and give or take 160,000 C stores in the nation.
Yeah.
Right? It's the largest retail footprint in the United States. So anyone in the counterculture side, right, that's what you're dreaming of, right?
Yep.
Is getting into the mainstream C stores, getting into the grocery stores. And fortunately for us, right, we have enough understanding, right, and we have enough experience in mainstream C stores, right, that we have a leg up in essence. And
Sure.
so the thought was, how do we make it as easy as possible for these mainstream C stores to really jump into bed of having counterculture items? And so a multitude of us kind of thinking about it and trying to come up with the best way, and really what we landed on was Smoke Shop in a Shop.
Sure.
Right. So every C store format has space within their store that they're not using.
Yeah.
Right. And so our thought was, well,
Or it could be used better. It's not
or
just-
used better. Yeah. But and so our thought was, how do we assist these retailers in converting that space into money-making space, right?
Sure.
Into high profit, right? High velocity items, right? Kratom categories. So Kratom, glass, all of that. So our thought was, well, we could take the top 4 categories in Smoke Shop, right? Which would be glass, super high margin, Kratom, high velocity, vapes, e-juice, right? Glass, all of it.
Yep.
And then marry it into a small platform that we can put into 2 feet, 4 feet, 8 feet, and then be able to have a retailer that now has cigarettes, Monster, chips, and everything that someone would go down the street to a smoke shop to buy.
Sure.
And so that was kind of really the thought was, all right, let's work down this lane of creating this vision of a smoke shop in a gas station.
Yeah.
And we kept moving forward and really birthed the vision. Really, it opened up the door for a lot of other things, right? Because mainstream distributors won't service that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, it's kind of taboo
you know what
to
I mean?
them.
And so we can't just create the concept of putting a smoke shop in a shop. We have to create the infrastructure to support it,
Yeah.
right? The distribution model, the reordering model, all of it. Because, right, a Cormark or a McLean isn't going to sell Kratom or vapes. They're not going to do it, right?
Yeah.
And so there was a multitude of avenues that we had to cover to be able to walk up to a gas station and say, hey, we have everything you need to be able to compete in this category, and how we get it to you, how we service the space, how your managers and clerks know and understand what they're selling, right? So we were able to build out a full infrastructure on what a smoke shop and a shop looks like
Sure.
for a store.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so funny because it seems so intuitive, but it's not so easy to, the beautiful part about the idea is that you guys are kind of trying to make a plug and play model. Like you could plug this into anywhere and make it as easy as possible. And that's like a hard thing to figure out, is like, how do you cover every angle? It's been a super robust, concept for a long time. And now it's like starting to materialize. What do you think about, the goals of it, Troy?
Well, I mean, the goal is that eventually, as things become more mainstream, like Motu said, it's going to be a situation where everyone is going to be buying their products in those types of stores. That's why it's important for a lot of these other vape shops and smoke shops a lot of them are transitioning into a different business model to compete,
altogether.
Head shops and are converting, and a lot of them are starting to carry convenience items. And so in order to, as we've seen this industry grow and change and evolve, it's and become more accepted mainstream, it's going to be a situation where, you're going to have to be a destination location for a lot of these types of places to be able to be successful. And we'll talk probably more about that in a little bit. But if they don't have a reason to bring people in, then they're going to go to their local 7-Eleven, Circle K, whatever is in their area to get the things that they need. And if they don't have it, then they'll still go to the traditional head shops and smoke shops. But as it transitions, it's gonna bite into a lot of people's profit.
You're gonna see a lot of smoke shop head shops become very nichey.
Sure.
Right. In these next 6, 7, right, as this bridge where counterculture is jumping into mainstream C-store, mainstream grocery, you're going to see a lot of head shops and smoke shops now become real nichey.
Yeah.
And so for them, it's going to be super important on just kind of what niches they want to attach themselves to, how competitive they want to be. Do they want to bridge their own gap and start competing against, right, the neighborhood, mercantile, grocery, convenient, whatever that is.
Sure.
Right. And I think it's important, right, because I've talked about this multiple times, but we're in like a huge change. Just buying habits are changing, right? The way everything is moving, right, with the rise in electric cars. And I think we still have probably 5-8 years before really electric cars are moving at production they need to, and people are biting off on them.
Sure, yeah.
But as soon as electric cars become the thing and everyone has it and they've outpaced gas cars, gas stations, right, what do they do?
Maybe less and less of them.
Yeah, less and less, and then it's
as well.
Then they have to become destinations, right? Destinations where we're gonna go, and you're spending 15 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, someone's gonna sit there for a while.
And so you got to go in, and you're gonna do your shopping there, get the stuff that you need, and so there's a lot of things, and I think for us, right, it's being able to see into the future and be able to position ourselves to understand that that's where that's going, but also if that's not the direction, be able to pivot out of it as well.
Of course.
But I think a smoke shop and a shop is very dynamic for a retailer in a multitude of ways, because it's
especially if they don't have to, the way it's being built out, they don't have to, even do their own inventory technically. I mean, they may have to, merchandise a small amount of stuff, but. And we can, there'll be more specific things later on, but making it as easy as you possibly can. And I think I actually want to touch on what you were just talking about, like looking into the future, because convenience really is the future. And like we've seen it with Amazon and Walmart and all these delivery services. It's like it's kind of incredible, because if you go back just even 20 years, the idea of being able to have commodities at your fingertips in such an immediate, instant way, like we have now with like Amazon, you can order something on Amazon today, and sometimes it's same day delivery or next day delivery. It's unheard of. And so it's like, as people become more used to the convenience of things like that, convenience stores are going to have to become more convenient. And this isn't really looking into the future. It's a innovative way to kind of frame the future of these type of stores. It's really interesting.
Yeah. I think in COVID changed really a lot of how we buy things anyways, right? And really how much time we want to spend in certain spaces, right? And so I think that's going to continue to evolve, right? The simplicity of being able to order on your phone and it get delivered to your house, that's going to continue to rise. But people still want to go and buy things. You still, right?
They still want to touch
we
it,
still
feel
want to
it.
go but a lot of us still want to be freaking sold.
Yeah,
You know what
well,
I mean?
and it's a
We still
social thing
want-
too. It's like some people just sit around at home all day, and maybe their only social interaction is going to a fucking store somewhere. You know,
And-
people have like a
But
need
if
inside
it's a
to
local
go do
store
it.
and they know the clerk, they can hang out and
hang out.
catch up and shoot the breeze for a while. And
I call a lot of grocery shoppers, I like to call yellow tag shoppers.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and that was something that grocery stores created, excuse me, years ago, right? Was yellow tag syndrome, right? Where when you see a yellow tag, there's a
good old
discount.
Kmart,
Yeah, the yellow tag syndrome, right?
Didn't they have
And
a
so-
blue light?
Blue light
too?
specials,
Oh, yeah.
Kmart, yeah.
I guess shit was wild. There's a rave in there.
The rollbacks, and so there's, I think, as long as that's in play, right, a lot of people are going to still want to go shopping. You still want to touch your food, and so I think groceries are always going to stay on that side of the fence.
Yeah, I myself have not gotten into the shopping or the grocery part of it, like the idea of being able to order your groceries. I like to go squeeze an apple, you know, make sure it's not bruised up. You know. I'm not into that yet. I don't know. I don't know if I will be either. So to touch on it, specifically smoke shopping and shopping a little bit more, how are we gonna? We talked kind of briefly about servicing it, but how do we service the space after it's built, after it's set up as a business? How are we taking kind of the pressure off of them to service it themselves?
Yeah. So currently in really the retail format, right, there's a multitude of ways that that retailers can be serviced, right? There's scan-based trading, there's right, service by a distribution company, DSD. And so our goal was kind of to create almost like an interesting hybrid model where we were able to integrate technology into that infrastructure, because at the end of the day, if we can utilize technology is going to continue to evolve and grow, and we're going to continue to be able to plug in things to the technology that's going to assist us and assist the retailers. So really what we have to offer now is the infrastructure of our website, which now has an app, right? And within the app is all of the retailers' needs are solved, right? Everything from item management, the ability to know what's inside of their set, shelf to shelf to shelf. And then the app itself, right, within the 2024 calendar, we'll be able to tell the retailer what's selling, what's not selling.
Yeah, it'll have data analytics.
Full data analytics. As we get to the end of 2024, we'll be able to plug in AI integration. So then we can essentially dig even deeper. And for a retailer who has 5 stores, right, essentially we'll be able to create planograms that are specific to the store and the demographic and the buying groups of that store, and they're not all the same, right? And so that's really where the vision is for the app, right? And so a manager can essentially do inventory once a week. It's going to have to be in the first month or so. You're going to have to do it more than that, just because you don't understand the velocity of the kratom or the vapes or whatever that is, right? So we have to get the velocity down. But once they understand the velocity, they can plug PARs into the app. And then when they're doing their weekly or their bi-weekly inventory and we've hit their PARs, the app will auto reorder for them.
Yeah.
They don't have to reorder. As well as in 2024, our goal is to get an API integration to where we're able to download an API onto their POS system that links to our SKUs. And then essentially there is no inventory that has to be done. We literally will go off of what's being sold, and the PARs will be set on the app. And once it's sold and it meets the PAR, it'll auto reorder.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of technology and a lot of AI integration that we're going to be able to do in 2024. That's really going to take out a lot of human error. Right, because that's right now, right? A lot of retailers have trouble with employees and I don't care what anyone says. The highest theft is employee theft. And so essentially the game plan is how do we simplify a lot of, right, the reordering that could have human errors.
Sure.
How do we make sure that the programs and the sets that they have are sets and programs that are creating the highest profit margin and sell through? And then how do we effectively create either a transfer or a return program that's dummy proof, right? So all of that's going to be built, all of that's being built into the app right now, right? So essentially, right, the auto transfer protocol will go into effect if you own a five store chain.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That whole part of it's fascinating
Yeah.
to me. The idea that you can have it automatically, I guess, analyze data in certain areas, like looking at it like a tree. You have, retailer name, and they have 5 stores, and each of those stores has a planogram or a profile that says, well, this sells more in this area, so this is what we're going to place. It's really incredible. Yeah. It really is.
And it's what's beautiful about it is in the beginning phases of this, right? You're just not going to know what's going to sell and what is going to sell. And so an auto transfer protocol, essentially, if Rhino Rush sells better in this store number 5, and we have a bunch of Rhino Rush in store number 1.
Yep, transfer
the
over.
app will auto transfer the inventory to store number 5.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Right, and so that full infrastructure on how that's going to shift and move, right? It saves a lot of money for us as the manufacturer and the distributor, because we're not returning it back home, and it allows them to continue to generate profit within. Yeah. Right, their profit machines.
It helps just optimize the structure of their
100%.
entire layout. Well, not everybody knows, but Troy was a store owner before all of this. He had a store called Variety Custom Vapor in Boise. So I guess this question is for you, because you've probably got the most insight about it. But why is the counterculture space a good industry to be involved in general?
Well, besides the people that are involved in the
yeah, we're great.
There's great people that are in this industry.
Yeah, I'm a customer too.
From the stores to the customers to the vendors, they're just non-judgmental people that have been through life and had obstacles thrown their way, and they're just easier to most of the time to get along with for the most part. I mean, there's exceptions to that always. But, for sure, that's how I fell in love with the counterculture industry. I just feel like the people are genuine and they're non-judgmental is a big thing for me. I don't like
it's real people, man.
Yeah, I don't like when people have their nose in the air and think that they're better than everybody else. And
it's better to have some toothless guy in there trying to pick up the new vape, and he's really excited about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My whole family are those toothless guys. You know what I mean?
That's
so
totally
fine. They're the best people.
But you have teeth.
I do. I kept brushing. I've been working on them for a long time.
So for me, mine was a vape shop, and obviously I shut that place down in 2019, and I haven't had any stores since then. Don't have any plans to. They're hard work.
Yep.
But also there's really good money in them too. So the thing, if I was still in them, I'd be doing. If I was a vape shop owner, still I'd be transitioning into other SKUs for sure. And I think most people are, and keeping up with the trends and trying to, because in the end, you're going to be fighting against the big guys. It's that way in every industry.
Yeah.
The one thing about counterculture is we all start out and we have all these great ideas, and we all move together in one direction, bouncing off each other's ideas and making things better and better and better every time we remake them or another company remakes them. And so it's hard for your standard mainstream type of people to keep up with that kind of evolution. And so
it's super dynamic,
but eventually it becomes regulated, and eventually it becomes dictated to who's going to sell it and where it's going to be at. And the reality of it is in our current environment, it's the writing's on the wall on a lot of these products. They're going to be in C-store scenarios, and it's going to be limited types of products that can be sold if the FDA gets their way.
Yep.
And it's going to cut the throats of a lot of the people that are involved in this industry. And it's just how it is. And so it's our job to figure out how to pivot away from that and continue to evolve and also cross that line to become more mainstream as well, to where we can have a destination that, a 7-Eleven can't compete with somebody that wants some of these products in an environment. They're going to always go to a shop that is got all the selection, has all the innovation, has all the marketing to get them in the door, does specials, does buy 2, get 1 free, buys, 3 for 2. I mean, these things are things that mainstream usually won't do for the most part. And so there's always going to be a niche for somebody that does it really well.
Sure.
But it's going to be harder and harder to do it really well in the future, and so if you're creative and you're on top of your game and doing your business and running it right, you're going to do well. But the reality is there's a lot of vape shops and smoke shops in this country that are at a break-even scenario every month, if not losses and losers. We've seen a lot of vape shops.
Well, pivoting, like you were just saying, pivoting is like pivoting is the way to survive, and you constantly have to do it. I mean, there's
in any
staple
industry.
things, of course.
Yeah.
But you got to. The good thing about our industry is that there is an absolute blizzard of things to pivot into and out of. And so, the selections for this stuff is, I mean, it's unbelievable. If you go to any of these trade shows like Champs and you walk into a place like that, it would blow your brains out if you've never seen a trade show. If you were just a customer, if you took someone from the street and set them in the middle of Champs, you'd have an aneurysm. It's ridiculous. There's so much going on. There's so much innovation.
So much to see.
It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really
and a lot
is.
of new ideas, are hard to get off the ground sometimes. But a lot of these ideas are really good ideas. But it's all in the marketing and getting the product out there and getting in the hands of the consumers and making sure that they receive it and like it. You know? So there's tons of great ideas that I thought would fly, and then they didn't do shit. And there's other ideas that I'm like, that ain't ever going to fly, and it does really
takes
well.
off. Yeah,
king.
No, for sure. So why? I'll go back to Motu here. Why would smoke shop in a shop? I mean, we've kind of touched on it, but I'd like you to get specific. Why would it be a good investment for a retailer?
It would be a good investment for a retailer because most retailers like to have the most minimal amount of partners and distributors that are servicing their store for them.
Yeah, it makes it easy. Yep.
Makes it simple and makes it easy, right? So especially in mainstream, right, they have one grocery wholesaler, right, whether it's a Core-Mark or McLean, and they service all center store, milk, water, all the coffee, all the cigarettes, all the novelty. Usually comes through one distributor, right? And so in this scenario, you have one partner that services all of your counterculture needs, right? And so it's in alignment with that retailer, and they're knowing that they only have two checks they got to stroke, right? They're either paying Core-Mark or they're paying Drip Drop. And the same level of service that they would get from the grocery wholesaler that's selling them candy and snacks and coffee, they're going to get from us as well.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it a little bit different than them, a lot different, right? In our ability to be on top of the trends and shifts and where the market's going and where buying habits are going demographically, specific, whatever that is. Our promise is that we're gonna help evolve and grow that set.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas we'll be responsible for it. We'll take advantage of where we are in the industry and continue to make sure that you're making money. Whereas the rest of the store through Core-Mark, right, that's that owner having to stay focused on they're having the best prices on coffee or best prices on Reese's, or they have to focus on their cigarette, Altria and RJ Reynolds contract. Where for us, it's everything was already in a box, it's built. And we'll take care of it. We'll cater to it. We'll make sure we put the right selection in there, and we're responsible for updating the selection.
Yeah.
And the other reason is, of course, the financial reason. It's great margin in counterculture products, and that's why they're starting to show up at our trade shows and shows like Champs and TPE and different shows, is because
they see the margin.
The margins are there, and of course they know they can reduce their margin and be a cheaper price point, and that's going to make it more competitive for the other smoke shops and all the other people that have to compete against that as well. But in the end, the margin is what's going to draw them in. They don't have a lot of products in their store that they make the kind of margin they do on counterculture products.
It's almost like like C-stores is almost like almost the casino model, right? They're willing to comp you on rooms and comp you on entertainment as long as you go gamble.
Sure.
Right? Well, gas stations are the same, right? They don't make any money on gas. They make all the money in the store. And now, right, as prices on food is going up and prices on this is going up, right, their margins keep shrinking on just regular everyday grocery items. And so it's super important for them to help manage their P&L by offering SKUs that gives them 50 and above margin every day, and they move.
Sure.
Right. And it's what consumers are looking for.
So do you guys think the reason we're seeing kind of a shift in the market as far as like C-stores and smoke shops blending together, do you guys think out of necessity, or is it out of just the evolution of the market?
I think some of it's that the stores are trying to draw more customers in their local market.
Are they getting smarter? I guess is
have things that they can cart other than just
yeah.
the counterculture stuff, and I think that has been successful with some of these chains of stores that are doing
Bro,
that.
if you smoke weed, you eat food.
You want snacks?
Yeah,
might
here's
as well
weed
have
and
them.
food.
You know what I'm saying?
So
Save the gas.
If you
seems to be
drink
just
alcohol, you smoke
the next
cigarettes.
logical evolution. It's not necessarily a out of necessity like we have to or we're gonna die.
No, I think our country is changing. Right?
Yeah.
I think what once was taboo isn't anymore, right?
Yep.
And so, that's all because of cannabis and the viewpoint on cannabis and states legalizing cannabis, and right, we were on the brink of federally legalizing it. So I think cannabis is really changing the landscape of retail. And so as we get further down the road, right, and if cannabis becomes federally legal, the landscape of retail is changing drastically.
Yeah, it's all
Right?
changing.
We're talking about literally 160,000 entrepreneurs that own gas stations in the United States that already have thousands and thousands of customers that walk in their store every day.
Yep.
What makes you think they don't want to capture them, who they already know is going to go down the street and buy their vapes, buy their kratom, buy their glass, buy their whatever it is?
Of course they want them.
They want them.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's really, and I think that a lot of the store owners know that.
Sure.
Right? And so, dude, we have retailers, dude, there's 1,000 chain stores right now that dabbled in kratom.
Yeah.
Right. And now are making so much money from selling kratom in their stores that if they were to lose it, it would decimate their P&Ls. They couldn't lose kratom at all. Right. And so we have chains that have, right, that have contracts with their fuel, right? Because a lot of fuel, right, whether it's Stinker, Chevron, or whatever, not Stinker, Sinclair, right? A lot of fuel manufacturers have these contracts with these retailers saying, hey, you can't sell this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And then the retailers are like, but I make more money selling those.
Sure. Make off of gas.
Right. And so now you're starting to see these retailers push back, right? Because there's a huge driving force for profit margin for them. Right?
Yeah.
So they're like, whatever, bro. You focus on the pumps, I'll focus on the store. Don't even trip.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's cannabis and it not being taboo anymore that's really changing, right, how these store owners want to operate.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, we're seeing it, and like you said, in smaller areas. It's just a matter of, if it goes federally legal, then when it does. I mean, it's not an if, it's a when. I can't believe it hasn't happened yet. I mean, I can believe it, but back to the app though. I want to kind of go over one thing. We were talking about the structure of the app for Smoke Shop in a Shop, and how it will come up with these planograms, and we'll be able to use all this data. So and this I want to kind of direct towards Troy. So as a store owner, previous store owner, and there was other stores too, because you guys did Vape Alley, I think is what it was called.
Vapors Alley.
Vapors Alley. Yeah. So from having a manager in those stores, is there because in the app there's an auto reordering aspect to the app. As a store owner, had that been available at the time you were doing that, is that something that you think you would have jumped on, or do you think you would have pressed against a little bit and kind of, because it almost sounds,
back then in a counterculture, a lot of people weren't even putting barcodes on the products.
You're
they were
right.
selling,
Yeah.
so
You're just bringing
it wouldn't have been as big a deal as it is now. But
sure.
But yeah, anytime.
I guess just at the time, if Motu walked into your shop and said, "Hey man, I got this whole setup right here, and there's an app, and you don't have to do anything."
I think from a smoke shop level, I would probably turn my nose up at him and told him I've got it under control, thanks. But from a C-store environment, it's a completely different story. Because they're looking for, like Motu said, a one-stop scenario. And McLean's and Cormarks of the world aren't going to carry but certain SKUs based on what they think they can sell without having insurance issues and credit card processing issues, and all of that stuff comes into play in the banking industry to keep people from wanting to do these things, even though they would like to. Sure. Sometimes they can't because of all of these obstacles that they face. And so in the end, as some of those walls start coming down and they feel like they can get the credit card processing out of the way, they got a bank they work with that doesn't care about that, and they've got these things that are in the way obstacle-wise, they'll start bringing them on. But Cormark's never going to jump both feet into it.
Sure.
It's going to be probably decades before that happens, at least a decade. And so I think that this is a good solution to get for those store owners that are out there that know the risk and want to take the risk based because of the margins, and they want somebody that they can trust relationship wise. It's going to treat them right and is going to make sure that their needs are met and their questions are answered and their training of the staff is done, and all those things that we bring to the table for those store owners is going to be huge. And right now they can talk to one brand at a time, sure, but they don't want to do that either. They want to have somebody that carries all the SKUs. And of course, we're working hard to build out, make sure we've got all those categories covered well. And we've only done one store so far that we've launched just as a prototype to test everything.
Yep. So we got our first store done on a smoke shop in a shop, and so that was it's kind of our Cadillac store, right? It's custom humidor and 6-foot glass cases, POS system, full back wall rebuild. So we're in the first couple weeks of it, so it's super exciting, right? To have our first smoke shop in a shop up and running. But there's still so much room for improvement and a lot of growth for us. And so
did we have like 2 more that they've committed to do in the same chain?
Yep. So we have about 2 more within that same chain, and then we have a couple other chains right behind it that are super interested in us coming in and doing.
We're just basically testing all of our software and making sure proof of concept works and that they get the turns that we expect, and then of course we can take that data now to the next chain and show them what it did for them, and from there it should grow well.
Yeah. No, it's been, I mean, as just an employee here, kind of helping where I can, but this has been kind of, Motu's baby brainchild. And so he's been working on it. And hearing it from kind of the outside perspective and not necessarily being like super involved and delved into it. It's just, to me, like very futuristic, very exciting sounding, and I think a lot of people out there, when they hear about it, it's like, it's so good sounding. And, validating it, obviously we have to test stores and it actually going from concept into a store right now, as we sit here, it's being tested. It's just a really incredible thing. It honestly is.
That is a true statement.
Well, success or failure is accomplished by, how well you build it out and set it up and execute it. Execution. That's why we don't want to go crazy yet with it until we can, get our hands around everything, make sure that we've got all the details worked out and have the app where it functions right. Like you said, you can either go into the app and find the product and cart it, or you can scan the barcode that's, on the counter in the drawer or wherever you got it displayed and order it that way as well. So it's super easy.
Yeah, we're gonna run into a lot of things that we probably don't have.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Or things that we just didn't prepare for, which we already know, right? And for us, we had to get it out there. We had to get it into a store. We had to get the use of the app moving, right? So we can break it. Because if we don't break it, then we don't know what we need to fix. And so, we're just super fortunate that we had a customer that wanted to take it, right?
Yeah.
And we have a lot of customers that want us to do the smoke shop in the shop, and it's important for us to just do it right.
Yeah, these guys are in our backyard too, so it's
Close,
we found a good partner we can monitor closely, and we actually did set up the first location. We helped remodel it and everything to get the thing done. But
yeah, you guys remodeled the whole place with them, right? It wasn't just
that section.
Well, that whole chunk of the store. Yeah, it's been a ton of work.
Yeah, we sourced the humidor for them because they wanted to have a humidor that was accessible for the customers to look at the product, and then they have a sliding out the back.
We're gonna start selling those, right? I heard that.
They're going to be available for the smoke shop and shop stores.
Custom humidors.
Yeah.
And they're amazing. The first time I saw it in person, I was like, I've never seen anything like it. I don't even know where did you guys get those?
We found a company on the East Coast that custom built.
They're just custom built.
Yeah. So it's one of a kind. There are no humidors that are backfill, right? That customers can see from the front side. Most humidors are lock cabinets on the front.
Yeah, they come around and unlock them.
Right, managers or clerks have to walk around and unlock it to grab the cigars. So it's just another really cool option for these C-store operators to get into premium cigars and continue to expand their offerings to their customers. So so we don't do cigars, but it's. For us, it links and ties everything together. Yeah. And it's a freaking beautiful humidor.
Well, yeah, and humidors are important. That's a huge market that not a lot of people talk about in the space that we're in. I mean, you do hear about them, but it's not, to offer at least, something like that. I think there's a lot of shop owners out there that would hear a back accessible humidor. It's just a very cool thing, I want to kind of do a favor for people. I guess we'll see if it's a favor or not. But Troy's got a lot of insight into setting up a store. So,
are you gonna put me on the spot?
Yeah, I'm gonna put you on the spot. So, so if somebody out there, let's just say, Jack and Jill out there wanted to set up a counterculture store, whether it was a smoke shop, whether it was a gas station, what advice would you give to a person out there to financially prepare themselves from scratch? You don't have to get into, sourcing and procuring things and finding vendors, but
that's a big part of it.
It is a part. Sure. It is, so absolutely. And we can't touch on
one
that.
Of the most important parts.
But I just want to talk. I guess the basis of it, my question is how does somebody, financially prepare for, something like that? I guess, you go into detail on what you think is important. Obviously, this is a question I'm aiming at you, but how does somebody out there start, and what kind of money do they need?
The most important things is to make sure you're not underfunded going into it, because that's it's going to be a slow death for anybody doing something. Because
got to have money.
If you don't have the inventory and the selection in your store to bring the customers in and to have it what they were looking for when they come in, you're shooting yourself in the foot, and it's bad money, and you're chasing success that you're probably not going to get, because the reality is most of these, with vape shops, for instance, you could get away with maybe 30,000 worth of inventory to launch and have the product there. And then of course you got your employees and stuff, but a lot of vape shops only do 25, 30,000 a month. And that's kind of a break even spot, really. I mean, about 15, 20 grand is your break even on a vape shop. Say.
You're sleeping in the back.
But then there's vape shops that do 150,000 a month in sales. So at the end of the day, make sure you have a big enough bankroll is definitely important. Selection of products is huge as well. And you got to create a buzz and have the right marketing behind it and have a presence. And location is probably the second most important thing.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good location and you don't have foot traffic and traffic going by to promote the store and get people in
What are
the
you
doors.
looking at for location? Not to cut you off, but are you looking at like rooftops nearby? Are you looking to be like downtown? Are you what's the best place?
A lot of people look at it different ways. For a vape shop and a smoke shop, I think that rooftops are important. But then again, it goes back to, if you're not accessible with the location that you picked and it's not convenient for those rooftops to come and shop there, they'll bypass you and go somewhere that's easier. So your entries into your establishment off the street and exits back onto the street are extremely important.
Yeah.
Visibility is super important. Location is a huge thing on that list, to be able to make sure that you have a location that's going to be successful.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Variety was actually in a perfect place.
It was until they got building out.
Yeah, they ripped it apart. Yeah,
but that was an amazing location.
It really was.
It was really close to downtown Boise, and it had, close
near the
to
college.
Was that the one that was in Albertsons?
Yeah,
the old
Albertsons,
original Albertsons.
Yeah, so it was like kind of like a strip of businesses, and there was Albertsons, there was a pharmacy, there was a liquor store. Well, in Idaho, the liquor stores are owned by the state, which is great. But there was all the things you want: Albertsons, pharmacy, drugs, Albertsons, liquor. Troy, you know what I mean? He fit in there like a puzzle piece, and it was a parking lot, like an actual, parking lot. What else? Is there anything else that?
Well, again, vendors, supply chains are crucial. Make sure that you're buying from somebody that's not going to run out of inventory. It's going to have the inventory as quick as you need it. Somebody local is always kind of preferred, or somebody that can ship in a couple day window.
Sure.
But systems are very important also. So you need to find the right POS system to make sure that you're keeping track of things and keeping track of your inventory and watching out for theft from employees and things not walking off and super crucial on that side of things too. So the POS is.
I don't know
POS,
why you look at me. I ain't never opened a store, bro.
Yeah, POS, location,
am I missing anything? I don't know.
and about make sure you're capitalized enough to take some hits and take, because a lot of times when you launch a new store, it can take 6 months before you get a clientele base that you can.
Let's test this theory out. You want to open a store?
No,
I'm that good, bro.
So you're saying,
Stores are very profitable if you know what you're doing.
Sure.
But
you're gonna hold $30,000-$40,000 in a what kind of size store is that? Just a
like 1,200 square feet. Your standard vape shop is that's what I'm saying. They have about 34,000 now. Smoke shops and head shops can have anywhere
crazy
from
numbers,
150 to 300,000 in inventory at any given time. Depending on the size and what SKUs they carry and how much traffic they have and
how much glass they have.
So you got to prepare to load it up and wait out the storm basically, and hope that you are marketed well and you're visible enough and all of those things.
And don't have too much competition in your area that you're opening against that's already established that you're going to have to try to take business from or try to get some of that business. So, if I was to go and try to find stores and open up stores these days, I would be looking in towns that have populations that can support them that maybe don't have enough selection, or the people that are doing it in that town don't have enough inventory to keep their money to keep their stores inventoried and stocked good enough that they're out of stuff all the time. That those are niches you can penetrate pretty easy when somebody's doesn't have the money to buy more inventory and they have to turn their inventory and then reorder.
Sure.
Those are the types of environments that I would be looking for.
And it would have to be like selection, right?
Yeah.
You can buy $30,000 in inventory, but if you bought $18,000 in the wrong inventory,
you're hosed.
You're up shit's creek without a paddle. So.
Well, in a warning scenario that I would say that has been the death of a lot of vape shops is the industry changes so fast. And if you overcommit to a certain product and brand, that you can order a bunch of it because it's moving really well. Next thing you know, it's old news, and now this is what's popular, and you got all your money tied up in inventory that's dead inventory.
Sure.
That's the one thing that drives me nuts about
especially in vapes, disposables.
Yeah. Well, and you have to be on top of there's something that gets overlooked also is being extremely on top of like the state of regulation and who's being looked at and what's got an import ban on it and what if your store shelves, like recently with Elf Bar and I believe Escobar, if you were really committed and rolled into those and you weren't paying attention, you would obviously it's unfortunate no matter how you slice that up. But if the FDA drops a hammer on a product like that and you're not diversified, it could kill you, absolutely kill you. Even as a distributor. It's not
more
even
so
just
as a distributor.
It can annihilate you.
Yeah, at a retail level, you can always move it. It's clearance, whatever, get rid of it. But
buy two get
out
one.
The back. Yeah, little homies down the block.
Yep.
But that's why it's so important, right? Is you cannot be one denominal in retail, right? For years, it was vape shops or vape shops or vape shops, right? And vape shop owners refused, right, to shift. And I get it, right? There was a lot of vape shop owners that really created a vape shop because they wanted to help people and quit smoking. And I love it. Right?
Yeah.
But
that's what the whole beginning of the industry was.
I used to love sitting behind our counter
Smoking
helping people get off cigarettes.
Yeah.
And I did it. I transitioned 2 or 3 people a day at that store.
Yeah, your store was amazing. That's actually how I met you. Was you employed a friend of mine who was also working full time elsewhere, but he worked part time at your store. And I remember I lived in the area. I lived like 2 blocks away, and I remember Josh telling me that he'd gotten a job there, and I should stop by one of these days. And I had been going to this other shop all the way across town on State Street because I thought it was the best shop around. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Cafe.
Oh. Yeah,
Cafe de Vapor. And those guys were awesome. I loved them.
Absolutely.
Chris and Tyler and Chris, I think was their names. They were great people. But I remember Josh telling me you got to come stop by, and I went in there, and it was, I saw you, I met Tim, being all crazy in there. I loved it. I mean, I loved it right out of the gate. I mean, I was doing my own thing, and then that's how we got, introduced to each other. But yeah, man, that was a great location, a great store. You had a good selection. You had a drink fridge in there too, didn't you?
Yeah.
You were the original smoke shop in a shop. You were
the original. Who banging criminal?
Yeah, you had energy drinks.
Yeah, we had
shit.
This was back in
no one was doing that. That was you.
15, 16. We had snacks in there. We had drinks. We had a lot of stuff. I mean, if you're gonna do something, you got to try to do it right and sell as much stuff to customers that come in, because vape stores don't get a lot of foot traffic. They get, if you're lucky, you get maybe 50 tickets a day.
Yeah.
And the more you can get out of your customers that are coming in, the better you're going to do. And
no one's wandering in. It's like people are looking for you. That's the only people you're getting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the next topic I mean, this kind of rolls off the back of that, but we touched on it a little bit, but margin in these type of products is impressive. And, to speak, I guess this could be a Motu thing here, but to speak to any C stores out there who are, maybe trepidatious about the idea, but haven't seen the margin. What kind of margin can they expect out of these type of products?
Oh, we're talking 50 and above, right? So
On everything,
on everything, every SKU, right? So it's very different than conventional grocery, right? So in every category inside of a smoke shop, head shop, tobacco, it's 50% margin and above.
Yeah.
And so for C stores that are on the fence or are struggling with just kind of getting into this category, I promise you that the bucket of gold on the other side of this rainbow is significant, right? But at the end of the day, it's who do you want to partner with, and who is going to take care of you and your stores the best, right? And of course, we'll always fight for we have the best service, right? And our ability to service retailers is amazing, but our product selection is amazing as well, right? And we cover the top 4 categories in the smoke shop, right? And we have a great selection in those categories, and we're also open to continue to grow and evolve, right? To get our retail partners in a position to where they're continuing to service their consumers with the right assortment of SKUs. So I think it's super high profit, super high dollars, super high velocity SKUs,
Good turns.
good turns, and there's a lot of money at the end of this.
Absolutely.
This
And
rainbow.
it's constantly growing. Things are constantly being added to it. I mean, so you mentioned before glass, vapes, kratom. What do you guys
papers should be as crucial as well.
Yep. What do you guys see in the pipeline in the future? Like, I mean, what do you think next year is going to kind of fall into this space? Like, is it do you think it's going to become more accessory heavy as far as cannabis goes? Do you think there's going to be innovation in vape? What are you guys looking at, I guess, offering throughout the 2024?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think for 2024, there's not a whole lot of innovation that's come out at the end of this year.
It doesn't
really
seem,
things that are
slow,
changing.
Yeah.
I think really what's going to happen in the 2024 calendar is really based on what's going to happen with disposables.
Sure.
Right. And right now it looks like the Biden administration is going to enact the menthol ban, right, in March or beginning of the year, first quarter.
It's so unfortunate.
And so if that happens, if the menthol ban goes into effect in the beginning of 2024, that anything flavored in nicotine is gone.
Yeah.
Everything disappears, right? And so there's been a couple companies that have come up with some really unique innovations in really being able to continue to have a smoke cessation SKUs out there. I think kratom's continuing to grow. I think cannabis is gonna make a huge leap in 2024.
Sure.
And so really for us, we're in like a weird tide, right? Where we really have to see where a lot of the categories that are big for all retailers, where they're going to be when we get to the second quarter of 2024.
Yeah.
Right. And so innovation in mushrooms is getting big right now, but we still haven't seen a lot of consumer data on just kind of repurchasing of mushroom products. I think there's a huge trend for it, right?
Yeah, a lot of buzz around it, but not a ton of data.
Yeah, not a ton of data on just how consumers are continuing to grow and repurchase that. And so we're not looking at getting into the mushrooms so much, but just continue to watch the trends. Categories that will always continue to do good are going to be nicotine, right? And so say something happens to disposables, well, that means that these retailers that had disposable heavy sets, they're going to have to get back into e-juice. Yep. Right.
Absolutely.
And so that's in my mind, that's really where I think it's going to happen is disposables are going to get taken off the market. And I don't think next year's the year we're in a presidential vote year. So I don't
not a lot going to happen.
I don't think maybe some talk about it, but probably not.
Yeah. I don't think the Biden administration would do that. Right. Cause that's a lot of voters, right? Vape consumers are the second largest nicotine consumers in the United States.
Yeah. It's an incredible amount of people.
I don't think you want to mess with that voting, right?
Well, and the menthol ban, I mean, any of this ban talk, the menthol ban, I know it kind of in the media, it's just shown as a save the kids type of call to arms type of thing, which is what they always do. But there's so much repercussion to something like that as far as business goes. There's jobs that will be lost. There's businesses that will die.
Well,
there's families that dumped all their money into opening a chain of stores, and they've worked their butt off the last
even
decade.
Worse than
and
that, right?
They're all out of business at that point.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's crazy.
Well, you got to think it's even worse than that, because a lot of the taxes that fund schools are from tobacco sales.
Yeah.
And a lot of inner cities, right, predominantly, right, African-American that smoke Newports and Cools, right? If you take away the sales of menthol, right, you take away a lot of money that actually gets dumped into these schools.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's gonna be so interesting. And so for us, right, it's we have to continue to ride this wave, right? And be cognizant of kind of what's coming down the pipeline. I don't think disposables are going anywhere next year. I think that's a 2025 thing.
Sure.
But if they do, then the pivot is to get people, right? You got to get these retailers back into e-juice. You got to get mods back into sets, right? Because no matter what, that same consumer is going to continue to vape.
A lot of those things are approved already and can be sold. And so I think there's going to be definitely a growth scenario that happens in pod systems that you can refill and the old mechanical types of devices.
Yeah, we're going backwards.
But well, that's lots of times our government causes all of us to go backwards a lot.
I know, it's unfortunate.
So it is, because at the end of the day, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, the amount of people that vape now that used to smoke, if they go back to cigarettes, sure, that accomplishes the state's agenda, which is to get more tax money for the schools from cigarettes being sold. But it's also killing more people. It's bad on our healthcare system. I mean, all of the other countries that are out there, that a lot of countries are taking a stand that, we're going to sell these because they're healthier, and we need to teach our kids not to do these things instead of outline them for the adults that are using them to try to get a healthier lifestyle.
Well, I look at it as it's almost like prohibition.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like they took alcohol away, and what happened, right? The underground alcohol, right, grew vastly. And I see the same thing happening, right? Maybe they are successful and they do a menthol ban and everything flavor gets taken off the market. It's coming back.
Yeah.
There's no way, right? Because there's way too many vape consumers in the United States for them to go back to cigarettes.
Yeah.
So all you're creating is a black market.
Yep.
That's all it's going to happen.
Well, and what I'm afraid of too, the FDA has a tendency in our industry to ban certain things, and then people make a workaround to continue to be on the market, because people that have their life on the line, that they've invested so much money into building something, can't just close the doors and walk away. So now you got all these TFNs coming out, and now there's new synthetic nicotines that are coming out. Well, how is that going to be for the customer? We already know free-base nicotine and nic salts and stuff are safe for people that take them. There's not people dying in the streets. I've been vaping for 12 years. And I feel so much healthier. My lungs are clear.
Yeah, you can smell things, you can taste things, all the things that they say happen when you quit cigarettes.
It's so much better. And as an adult, of course, I'm going to continue to vape if I want my nicotine deliverance. But to tell me I can't get that now, and to go back to cigarettes, I would never do that personally. I'd never go back to cigarettes. But there are people who will, and it's worse for their lifestyle. And so the fact that kids are using these, they shouldn't be. And that's up to the parents to make sure they don't do that, not up to legislation, because fentanyl's already illegal, and you can get it on the streets in any corner of America.
Yeah.
So what good is outlining something going to do?
All it does is hurt responsible people. That's all it does.
And now your regulation isn't there for the product. It's being sold in the streets. Things are being done like the vitamin E acetate that was done in cartridges for THC that killed people. And
I know, and then that was sensationalized into all vapes are bad. If anybody out there doesn't know about that, when there was all that push that everybody was dying from vaping, it was vitamin E acetate, and if you just Google it, you'll figure it out. It was sensationalized.
And nobody in our industry would have put that in a product, because they already knew that it was
absolutely bad. No, it was that was a crazy time.
But so you create a demand in the streets for it, and people do things to make money in the streets. And that's the unfortunate scenario is our politicians, for whatever reason, don't get it still.
Yeah.
They do get it.
I think they do get it. They're not, they do get it. They just don't give a fuck. Yeah. It's crazy. The most gross thing I ever saw in terms, like, I'm not a very political guy. I don't know a ton about corruption and conspiracy and all that, but this was no conspiracy here. I watched this happen from inside of this industry. There was a period of time where a guy named Scott Gottlieb was the commissioner of the FDA, and this was like 2016, I want to say, 2015, somewhere in there.
The beginning of the Juul thing.
And Scott Gottlieb I remember listening to him talk, reading articles, and having this guy tell everybody how vaping was the worst thing to happen to nicotine cessation, and how it was terrible for people and it was hurting people. And he was the stand-in commissioner. He wasn't like the actual FDA commissioner. When that guy, I remember one day reading an article saying Scott Gottlieb fighting against vaping, and he was on the cover looking all handsome and blah, blah, blah. And the next day, Scott Gottlieb stepped down from the FDA and went to work for who? Immediately. It was announced the next day. He went to work for Shantix. Cigarette cessation. This dude was unbelievable.
Yeah.
He was enacting legislation and regulation over a direct competitor to Shantix, and then he left his seat as the commissioner of the FDA and started Shantix the next day. It was the craziest thing. I mean, again, Google it. It's out there. It's not hidden knowledge. But yeah, I could talk about this kind of stuff all day.
Yeah. We don't want to step on anybody's toes.
No. Okay. So,
and become a target.
Yeah, of course. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and just wrap it up. I want to thank Troy. I want to thank Motu for coming here. I want to thank you guys for joining us again. It's very, very important that you like and follow us on all of our social medias. It's at Drip Drop Distro, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Do we have TikTok? Are we getting into TikTok?
We have a TikTok.
If it's not there, it's going to be there. Yeah,
that was the answer I got.
Motu's okay. And we're gonna probably put Motu on there. He's gonna dance. It's gonna be fantastic. Well, we love you guys. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time.